All right, Tulsa, thank you for being here at the Tulsa Renaissance and Convention Center. My name is Jason Rustemeyer, and I am a manager here, saying hello and telling you the safety briefing. It's really easy because today the weather is really nice, but if we do have some crazy storms roll in, because it is Oklahoma, we're just going to stay here in the grand ballroom, away from windows. If there's an emergency or a fire, we're going to go out into the parking lot. We're going to, obviously, all the signs here, the exit signs, we're just going to go out any door over there. And we're just going to wait until the fire department gives us the clear to come back in. And that's pretty much, with that, it's pretty simple. Restrooms are on this side as well as this side. So that's it, basically. It's really easy. And you guys enjoy your lunch, and we appreciate you once again. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome everyone to Tulsa Regional Chamber's State of Inclusion. Wow, that was like E.F. Hutton speaking. I'm Rose Washington Jones, Chief Executive Officer of TEDC Creative Capital, 2021 Chair of the Tulsa Regional Chamber, and 2024 Vice Chair of Inclusion. It is my honor and my privilege to serve as your MC today for our State of Inclusion event, and I am grateful and thankful that all of you chose to join us today. Every single person at every single company in our region has a part to play in making Northeast Oklahoma diverse and welcoming. By your presence here today, you are demonstrating your commitment to the vital work of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you for making DE&I a priority both personally and professionally, and yes, give yourselves a round of applause. I'll now give you about 10 minutes to get started on your lunch, and then we'll be right back for today's featured speaker. Are you going to keep me on task or do I need to set a timer?
No, I keep you on task. You ain't got too much. You ain't got too much.
Who is that? Hey, what's happening, Joe?
It's good to see you.
I saw your name on
Yeah.
the list, so I'm glad you're here.
Well, you got all the lights in your face. You're kind of like, wow.
I know. And I don't know, I sounded muffled. I
Oh,
don't
you
know
sounded
what
great.
I sounded like
You
out
said
there.
well on our side. You sounded great.
Okay, good.
Rose, you want some salad dressing?
I don't think I may do that. I'll take some and then I'll eat it after.
I was going to say something we just we have 60 minutes here. So after the head table, I think there's a brief like any elected officials here, and after that, you can throw in a thank you to Williams Company for bringing 60 interns tonight.
I just met a few.
Yeah, I know. We're super happy with it. It's something we talked about tonight. It's never so.
Not walking the dog house.
If you want to,
Right
like right
here.
there, yeah, after that.
Thus far.
Shout out. There's 60 interns from Williams.
Thus far.
And we're doing great on time. So
Okay.
about 12:15.
Yeah.
We're good. Get it going.
And they're all college students, right?
John will know any questions. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. If you have any questions, John has my number. He can
Okay,
text me.
got it. Thank you. Excuse me, ma'am. Oh, I'm not gonna have it.
Hey, Rose, I saw it across the world, thanks to Roger Ramsire, that Jennifer and Rob had come in second place in the golf tournament. I
Oh,
said,
really?
the person that claimed they won obviously cheated, but the Jennifer had obviously carried it.
So, what was it? Was it? Oh, you guys have started already at Meadowbrook? And so you guys are second? So it was two.
It was Mike's kids or couples.
Okay. Hey, Mike. They played with us before, sure.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Rob just said, Rob told me the other day he was going to take Marvin out. He was going to get Marvin.
Well, now's a good time. His handicap is rising. Since we're not playing.
I think I can speak safely for Jennifer in saying that Rob is. Jennifer may not be, but Rob is.
Yeah, she's at table with your brother.
Okay.
Oh, we're real well.
Good.
Real well. What table?
So you see this next table. To the black table.
Yeah, you want to sit with his feet. All right, so just real quick note. Scott Schingen.
Yeah.
He's at his ONEOK table. He wants to sit down there. He don't want to sit up here with everybody else.
Good, I won't have to say his name. But then do I need to recognize him?
Yeah, just he's on that end right now. So
And then down here, ONEOK, what are they?
he's a speaker.
They didn't do any.
He's
Okay, so I don't have to say anything.
Yeah, he's just on the panelist. And we had put him on a spot up here.
Got it. Okay. All right, it's time. Ready?
Now you go ahead.
Welcome back, everyone. While you continue to enjoy your lunch, I would like to introduce representatives from several of the companies that have made today's event possible. Please hold your applause until I introduce everyone. Seated to my far right and your left, Tim Lyons, President and CEO of TTCU Federal Credit Union, a gold sponsor. Claudio Nascimento, General Manager of CF Industries, a DEI benefactor. Jason Aurora, Senior Director of Learning and Development at Hilti, a DEI benefactor. Robbie Hollinsworth, Senior Director of Operations at Aristocrat Gaming, a DEI benefactor. Roger Ramsire, Vice President and Oklahoma Market Leader of Cox Communications and 2020 Chamber Chair, also a DEI benefactor. Justice Waitner Smith, Director of Diversity and Inclusion at ONEOK, a DEI benefactor. Angela Copeland, Chief Human Resources Officer at OneGas, a DEI benefactor. Debbie Pickle, Senior Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer at Williams, a DEI benefactor. Mike Neal, President and CEO of Tulsa Regional Chamber. Jennifer Jessic, 2024 Chair of the Tulsa Regional Chamber and Vice President and Oklahoma Division Manager for VSC Fire and Security. And finally, on my right side, Jonathan Long, Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Tulsa Regional Chamber. Seated to my immediate left and your right, Tom Taylor, Chief Development Officer at Family and Children's Services, today's speaker sponsor and morning session sponsor. Shalynne Jackson, our fabulous speaker, who's also founder and principal strategist of Sonder Strategies. Stephanie Grober, Planned President of Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a DEI benefactor. Jeff Reed, Chief Human Resources Officer at Bank of Oklahoma, a DEI benefactor. Alexis Higgins, CEO of the Tulsa Airports Improvement Trust, a DEI benefactor. Carrie McNear, shareholder and co-chair of the DEI committee at Gable Gottwalls, a DEI benefactor. Bailey Sickreed, Vice President of Culture, Communication, and Human Resources at Nordam, a DEI benefactor. Megan Joyner, Board Vice Chair of Tulsa Zoo Management, a gold sponsor. Misty Reinhardt, Vice President of Advertising at the Tulsa World Media Company, a gold sponsor. Cinthya Allen, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Arvest Bank, and Hannah Jackson, Partner, Chief Operating Officer and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director with Schnake Turnbo Frank. Okay, let's give them an applause and then we'll get to the rest. In addition to these sponsors seated at the head table, we owe special thanks to Helmerich & Payne, a gold sponsor, Charles and Lynn Schusterman Family Foundation, a DEI benefactor, Matrix Service Company, a DEI benefactor, and T.D. Williamson, also a DEI benefactor. Thank you also to each of our silver and table sponsors, which are listed on the back of your program. Please join me once again in thanking all of our sponsors for their support. We also want to thank any elected officials who have joined us today. Would you all please stand and be recognized? So I'm going off the script just a bit. I have a special love for college students. I have one who's a rising senior, but in the room we have 60 interns, college interns, who are working with Williams this summer. How about we ask them to stand and give them a round of applause? That means you all have to continue your professional careers in Tulsa. Now I'd like to move into our formal program for the day. Please help me welcome Tom Taylor, Chief Development Officer at Family and Children's Services, today's speaker sponsor, who will introduce our keynote speaker. Tom?
Thank you, Rose. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor, as well as my colleagues from Family and Children's Services at table 13 and 14, to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, Shalynne Jackson. Shalynne Jackson is founder and principal strategist of Sonder Strategist, a diversity, equity, and inclusion firm. With a strong commitment to equity, Shalynne brings extensive experience in implementing DEI strategies across diverse industries, from Fortune 500 corporations to public safety agencies. Her impactful contributions extend beyond consulting. Shalynne serves as the membership chair for the Society for Human Resource Management's Oklahoma Human Resource State Council, or more easily known as OKHR, and is an active member of Schnake Turnbo Frank's I&D Advocacy Committee. Additionally, she plays a vital role on the board of Reimagined, a comprehensive diversion program in Oklahoma City. In 2023, Shalynne's outstanding work earned her recognition as a notable DEI leader by 405 Business Magazine as one of the Metro's most influential leaders. She holds a Master of Human Relations degree from University of Oklahoma. And please, can the room help me give a warm welcome to Shalynne Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank y'all so much. I am trying not to get emotional because one thing that was not shared is I'm a Tulsa native, and I am back with friends, and just really a lot of you are family. I grew up in Tulsa, and I really like to say that I grew up in the D&I space in Tulsa. Tulsa's where I got my start at the amazing ONEOK, and so I'm just really grateful for this opportunity. I'm also really grateful for you all. This room is proof that the conversation continues, right? This room is proof that Tulsa continues to remain committed to this conversation. Tulsa's not new to this. We're true to this, right? Get it? Get it? No? No, but seriously, I remember sitting in the State of Inclusion meetings a while back, before I moved. And so this conversation is not new to Tulsa. When it's just now starting or getting traction in a lot of places, Tulsa's been willing to lean into the conversation. Does that mean that we've gotten it all right? No, no one ever will, right? But where we should applaud ourselves is that we keep going. And I'm grateful for even the chamber for always leading that conversation. I'm grateful for Jonathan for doing such a phenomenal job keeping the conversation going. And again, I'm grateful for you all because you keep showing up every year and doing the work. So give yourself a clap. Clap it up, clap it up. Okay, so this is when it gets interactive, y'all, and I can kind of see who is not going to participate. The lights are bright, but I can see y'all a little bit, okay? I need you to raise a hand, fist to 5, if you feel comfortable telling me how comfortable you are with this conversation. Whether it's, I'm good coming when I just have to eat, but I don't have to really talk about it. Or, if somebody came up to me at work, I would be okay with that and have that conversation. And this is about comfort, not do you like D&I, but how comfortable are you with this conversation? So if the 5 is put me in the game, coach, I'm ready, just raise your 5. Okay. If it's 4, it's okay. If it's 3, it's okay. Okay, I see some diversity up in here of hands. Awesome. Well, I like to start by saying that none of us will ever arrive, and I'm not even always a 5. So giving yourself grace, giving each other grace to understand that this conversation is not always easy. And if anyone ever tells you they're always a 5, I'm going to respectfully ask that you kind of not have this conversation with that person anymore, because we should always be evolving. We should always be growing, right? When I feel like I've landed something, it either changes or something else changes that needs my attention. What used to be okay to say yesterday is not okay to say that today. And arguably, what used to not be okay, now the kids are making cool again, right? And so giving yourself that grace to understand that sometimes this work is going to be messy, a lot of times. This work is going to feel hard. This work is going to feel like an uphill battle oftentimes. I learned at ONEOK, we got to celebrate the small wins and do this together. But I've also learned throughout my career that we really just have to give ourselves grace and understand we don't have to have all the answers. So what I want to tell you, at least in our time together, is that you are not expected to have all of the answers, but I'm asking you to lean in and to just really, again, reimagine what this conversation could look like if we could all get on the same page. Can we do that? You can give me a 5 for feeling good about that? Yeah. Awesome. Well, the thing I like to start with is DEI is not dead. It's not. DEI is not dead, and this is proof that DEI is not dead. Nobody told y'all were coming to talk about engineering. No one told y'all you were coming to talk about money, right? You all opted into this knowing that we were going to talk about DEI. What is true is that the noise is loud. And we have to be able to decipher what's just noise and what's the truth. And the truth is organizations remain committed to this. I see multiple tables of ONEOK. I see multiple tables of OneGas. I see Williams brought 60 interns, right? Like, we have to be willing to lean into this, but to understand that when we're doing the work, we don't have time to argue with the noise, right? We let the work speak for itself. A lot of times I know nowadays people are changing their name. Arguably in my day job, we changed our office name, but we were already doing that despite what was going on in the world. We weren't forced to do that. I like shorter. But even if you like all of the alphabets, DEIAB, all of that, that is awesome and I love that for you. What's important is, are you doing the work? And many people are still doing the work. What I also like to say about the noise though is like, it can be hurtful. I remember my day job, like I said, someone posted on social media when the announcement came out that my organization hired a bald, liberal, black woman to hire a bunch of black people and to silence the white voice. Can you imagine me reading this comment, right? Like I'm literally going word by word to say, I'm bald because I have a disease, I have alopecia. That's why this work is relational, so we can know people's stories. I'm not bald because I'm liberal. Who told you I was liberal? And I'm not bald to make a statement, right? I'm black, yes. I'm proud to say that I'm black. And I didn't get hired to hire a bunch of black people. But my question to them is, what's wrong with hiring black people? Right? And I want to be really clear, I did not respond, okay? I did not respond. Because what I've learned is those are what I call the nopes. I learned very early, thank you, Justice, for teaching me about the early adopters, the people that are going to get on board. They're going to beat you to the meeting. I'm on board, just tell me, just put me in the game. I don't even really know what we're doing. Just tell me to play a little bit, okay? I'm there. Then you have the movable middle, which is where most of us are. Oh no, I'll come and I'll sit in the back of the room. Like, I don't really know. I got to figure out what you're talking about first. Oh, veterans, I can get on board with that. Let me go ahead and come in there, right? Like, you got to hook them, right? But the movable middle, that's where most of us are. And then there's the nopes. And while most of us are in the movable middle, the nopes I don't plan on ever getting on board are where we spend most of our time. And what I learned earlier in my career was that you can waste a lot of energy there because they never plan on getting on board, even though this work is for them. Everybody benefits from this work, but everybody should not benefit from your energy. So it's really important to invest your energy in the people that really want to lean in. They just need the hook. They just need to know where it is that you're taking them and that they can trust you on this journey. So I bring that up because I was very committed to not leaning into the noise and not dealing with the nopes. But what I did do was I realize now why Beyonce chooses not to read the comments. And I'm not comparing myself to Beyonce because she could pay every single one of us to read the comments for her, okay? I get it. I'm not Beyonce. And sometimes you just have to block out the noise. And that was when I made the decision. I wasn't going to read any more of the comments, but I was going to get to the work that I knew that is really, really important and benefits all of us, all of our organizations, our nation, and arguably our world. The next thing I like to say is we got to call people in, not out. Now, you see that asterisk, and we're going to get to the asterisk in a second, okay? But a lot of times right now, we are doing a lot to try to call people out, and that's going back to giving the energy to the nopes, right? Where we miss is a lot of the people that just need to be called in and need to know what it is that we're trying to accomplish, and they need to know that they belong in this conversation. A lot of times, people feel that the narrative about DEI, DEIAB, y'all know where IND, all the things, is that this is a replacement strategy. And I told the group this morning, we had a great time. I told the group this morning that I say things that usually make people like, ah, she said that. Like, I'm black, ah, right? Like, we should all feel comfortable leaning in to who we are, right? And I say that because it's not a replacement strategy for white men, and we have to call a spade a spade. But I can't blame white men, many white men, for feeling that it probably is because of how we have this conversation oftentimes. We have to be willing to say, look, some white men are marginalized themselves. Are we talking about disabilities? Are we talking about socioeconomic status? Are we talking about religion? But these are things oftentimes that we don't talk about. We usually make this conversation about race and gender and sometimes sexual orientation. There's a lot more to us than those three things, but we often leave it there. And then we're mad when people don't want to lean in after we just beat them with our words, right? So for me, it's about calling everybody in and getting everyone to see and understand the role that they play in making Tulsa a better Tulsa. Tulsa a place where everybody wants to live, work, and play, and can do that safely, can do that without having to look over their shoulder, can do that knowing that they won't lose their job because of who they love. These are the conversations that we need to be having. Now, we had a phenomenal conversation earlier this morning. Well, I like to say it, I'm biased, okay, but I thought it was good. And someone pointed out around, like, there are people that are just full of hate. That's what the asterisk's for. See the asterisk, the unless necessary? But a lot of times it's not us. So what we talked about this morning was how important it is to develop our allies, give our allies the information that we need them to have to feel good about respectfully calling people out. And what does that look like in our organizations and CEOs and leaders in here? I need you to lean in because this is where, as a D&I practitioner, I think I can say for my colleagues in here that we really need you to lean into setting the expectation in your organization of what will and won't be allowed and stick to it, even if that means letting them go. Because the truth is, you may lose a rock star, sure, but how many rock stars have you yet to see flourish because of this person that you continue to keep? Oftentimes, if it doesn't affect us, well, the person is not bothering me. Of course, this person is amazing when they're around you, right? But believe people when they tell you over and over again that this person is a problem. And am I saying just go firing people? No, you give people chances. But at some point, if somebody is not willing to get on board, what narrative are you sending to your culture and your people if you are not willing to say that is not tolerated here, and if that is what you stand on, you're going to have to stand somewhere else? Those are the respectful call-outs, and oftentimes they should not come from the DEI practitioner because the truth is we are in positions of influence, not authority. And it is really, really hard to influence people if they don't like you. And it is really exhausting, but oftentimes we have to put on the smiley face, hoping that our allies and our leaders will lean in and help us. So I hope you get a lot out of this, but if you didn't get anything else, let the person go. Because some of y'all are thinking about a person. Some of y'all like, is it me? Is it me? Right? Right? And what's sad is that, like, sometimes you have to question that because we'll give people all fives. I was in a conversation earlier this week with a client that was like, somebody gave this person an all five and I had to push it back to them because they're not an all five. And I said, and I'm proud for you for doing that. I'm talking about performance evaluations here. I'm proud of you for doing that because what we often find ourselves in a ditch is you gave me all fives and now you want to say that I need improvement? Like now you want to say that I'm not performing? You just told me that I am. We have to have the courage to say you are not performing, even if that means you are not aligning with our values. That's a lack of performance in itself. So call them out sometimes. So then next we have to think platinum unless you first need a master goal. So follow me here, y'all. What is the golden rule? I know y'all know. Yes. do unto others as you would want done to yourself. There's I remember seeing a list of like how a lot of different cultures say it differently, but the gist is treat other people how you want to be treated, right? The truth is we really need to be platinum. We need to go platinum here and treat people how they want to be treated, but I can't do that if I don't have a relationship with you. This work is relational. There's no one toolkit that I can give you to just automatically make you be the greatest employer in the world. This is everyday intentional practice, and it starts with building relationships. If you want to get to being a 5 on some topics, you definitely can't do that if you don't diversify your world. What does diversity look like? It's not just being able to say, I have a black friend, right? Because the truth is, even black people were not a monolith. So you may know that black person, but you don't know me. Y'all following me here? And anybody getting uncomfortable? Like, whoo, she is saying the words we don't really usually say, right? But this is true. We have to build relationships across difference if we really want to make some really, really, really big change. And it's not always easy. Sometimes it's a matter of, so I was doing some work in a really small city, and they were like, I want to do this, but we aren't very diverse. Okay, let's talk about what your barriers are and how we can be intentional about moving them. So you're in a really small, it's not even a city, I don't know why I said city. You're in a really small town in Oklahoma. You're about 2 hours from both Tulsa and Oklahoma City. How do we plan over the next 6 months to a year to get you to one of those bigger cities where there's a lot of different things, whether it's museums, Greenwood Rising. And so I told the group this morning that the person was so excited to call me to be like, oh my goodness, I'm going to this museum with my wife because she needs to do something like this for her capstone project. And I told her we have to go because this is one of our barriers that we talked about when we were together. You have to be intentional. And in Tulsa, you don't necessarily have that kind of barrier. There's a lot of access to diversity, but we do have to be really intentional about finding the opportunities to change our world so we can ultimately change our worldview. So think platinum, but the reason why I say unless you first need to master gold, the reason why I say you first need to master gold is that sometimes gold is hard for people. Let's keep it honest. Like if you think about that comment that guy put on Facebook towards me, I can guarantee you, really my paychecks for the rest of the year, that if I did it to him, he wouldn't be smiling. Would you agree? Typically, we will be a keyboard gangster. We will say all the things to people that we wouldn't dare want said to us and about us. So while we love to walk around talking about the golden rule, oftentimes we're not even practicing that. Like one of the biggest ways we could change the narrative is if we would ask ourselves, just take a pause, just practice the pause to say, if somebody said this to me in this way, would I receive it? No. The answer is often no, especially if it's going to Facebook, okay? No, if it's Facebook, but it's usually not going to be something that you would be okay with someone saying to you. And so that's why I say, unless you first need to master gold. Don't even think platinum if that stresses you out. If you do feel in your heart that you probably don't always show up in a way that you will want people to show up for you. And the good thing about it is we can change that today. Don't leave here with guilt or shame. Just leave here empowered that we can be the change that we want to see in Tulsa, then the nation, then the world, by simply practicing the pause and reflecting internally. Because a lot of times we make this work about other people, but we're the only people we can change. Like the only person I can work on and the only person that I can really do something about is me. I can't do nothing about my 3-year-old and 6-year-old. Definitely not that 3-year-old. If you follow me on Facebook, you know. You know, okay? But seriously, there's a lot of things that we can't change, but what we can change is ourselves. And then the other thing I'll say is focus on respecting diverse beliefs, not changing them. Listen, being born and raised in Oklahoma, still living in Oklahoma, respect and beliefs are a big deal, okay? And so this is one of those things, like I like to call a spade, like I said. I'm a Christian. I'm proud to say that I'm a Christian. I say that because being a Christian does not mean that I can't respect other people's beliefs. So whatever it is that your religion or your spirituality is, you can be so grounded in who you are and allow other people to do the same. That's what we're trying to get at here. Show up for other people, let them be. We had a great, what was it earlier, Bailey? Love and let love. Love and let love, y'all, right? Like if that was it, I told them earlier that I wish people would love me out of a job. Like I genuinely wish I would be like, they really like each other now. I really need to find another career. And it shouldn't have anything to do with numbers, right? But unfortunately, that's not going to happen for a really long time unless we get on the same page about the conversation that we're trying to have and really stop overcomplicating it. It gets down to love. And for me and my beliefs and my religion, I was told to do one thing, and that's to love. Not love if someone agrees with me, not love if I can convert them, not love when somebody says what I want them to say. I was told to love. And when I can get behind that, I can respect other people's beliefs and still be really grounded in my own. There's a person in here, and I just made eye contact with them, but I told them that I was going to give them this shout out without saying her name. But I appreciate our relationship because there was a time earlier in my career where she came to me and said, as such a devout Christian, how can you show up for everyone like you do? And I said, really, it's easy. I just get to wake up and love, right? Like I was told to love. When I tell you that was one of the most transformative conversations, and I am so proud of her growth, literally one of the biggest D&I champions because she was willing to say, I can be grounded in myself and allow people to do the same. And I know that's hard, y'all. I know that's really hard because you can feel like you are compromising a part of yourself, but I promise as you lean in and are more intentional, it gets easier and easier. And it just becomes a part of how you show up for people. So it's really, really important to lean in there. And then the other thing I want to say is just take care of people and they'll take care of you. Like that really is the premise of all of this. And if we could change the conversation to we are taking care of people, we really could change the game. Not we are trying to change people. Now, do some people, remember, we're not talking about the nopes. Because what happens to the nopes is that they get silent because they either leave or they realize their noise is not shaking nothing. You're not shaking any more trees. And nothing is happening to you. You okay, right? Like you doing all right. But did you die? That's the question, right? And when they realize they didn't, they get silent. That doesn't mean that they love it any more or any worse, but they get silent when they realize my noise is not working anymore. So it's really, really important. And just to say, like, our expectation here is that we take care of people, and people will continue to take care of us as an organization. I often like to say that I have someone in my life that works remote, full-time remote for an international company, middle of the night talking to the India team, then in the day talking to the people in the Americas, like always working. And while I do not agree with this, that organization gets more hours out of him because his leader takes care of him and he takes care of his leader. Again, I like to send people on PTO. Like, why have you not been on PTO? You need to go. Don't you have a vacation that you need to take? Yes, you should go, right? Like, I am not telling you here that the goal is to get 50 hours out of people. But what I'm saying is when we show up for people, people show up for us. Let me give you an example before I close. This is me. This is my ONEOK headshots. They both cute, but they look real different, don't they? Right? So growing up, around the age of 6, I was diagnosed with alopecia. And for some people, alopecia leaves come back. Some people, it only happens once, and then it never happens again. And for me, alopecia has hung in there with me tight, right? Right? And there became a time where for a while I had eyebrows. It was at that time alopecia areata, which just meant that I didn't have hair on my head. But then eventually it turned into alopecia universalis, and so it started spreading, and I was like, what in the world? At one point, y'all, I had one eyebrow, and I didn't have another eyebrow. And even right now, a little bit is growing over here. Like, it's just the wildest thing. And so here I am with beige, trying to hide it all. I'm just like, right? And I will never forget the Thursday. I was coming right out here to this steakhouse to meet my family for my uncle's birthday party, and I was crying. I was in tears. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But my problem was, I was like, corporate America already wasn't ready for a black woman, a young black woman, and a bald black woman? Absolutely not. That is where I draw the line, right? But what I had to ask myself was, how can I tell everybody, give the organization a chance, when I wasn't practicing what I preached? See, the problem was not wigs. I want to be really, really clear. Sometimes I'd be like, I wish I could throw one on, and then I remember how hot and itchy they were, and they cost a lot, and I don't want to do it now. The problem was, I wasn't showing up how I wanted to show up when I decided I no longer wanted to wear wigs because I was scared. Society told me that I had to have hair to be beautiful. As a kid, this is what I was hearing. I had to have hair to be beautiful. Your crown is your glory, right? If you don't think that people care that much about hair, go Google the Crown Act. The fact that the Supreme Court, I think we could all agree that they have other things to be talking about, and it ain't, and yes, I said it ain't black women's hair. But the fact that the Supreme Court has to talk about should you be able to discriminate against a black woman for their hair was why I was scared, y'all. I was terrified. So that Thursday, I'm driving out here, and I call my then boyfriend at the time, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's like, don't. I'm like, get off my phone. You don't know what you're talking about. That was nothing is supposed to stop me. So then I call my mom, and I'm like, I can't do it. And she's like, it's about time. And I said, so all y'all have lost it. You really not gonna tell me not to do this? The next day, though, I did it, and I did it scared. I did it terrified. And I told you, I'm a religious person, and so to me, the enemy was like, do it Monday. It's Friday. And I'm like, no, Friday's better because no one's there, right? So I'm like talking, like, no, I'm doing it now. But that Friday, my career took off. But not only my career, and I'm not saying that I became the CEO. You don't want me to be the CEO of a natural gas company, okay? What I'm getting at here is that I was able to lean into my fullness. The company had all of me. I was no longer scared that somebody was going to walk into my cube and pet my hair. I was no longer, and yes, black women are pet all the time, and stop doing that. Stop doing that. And stop asking, how'd you get your hair so long over the weekend? You know it didn't grow. Stop doing that. Just ask me if I got my hair done. Not me, but ask me, right? Sorry, really back in, Shay, really back in. But in all truthfulness, I was scared. So I get there, and I will never forget, I was in my cube, and a guy by the name of Scott, not the Scott y'all are about to meet, which he has been a rock in my career as well, but I know I'll make him turn red, so I won't go there. Scott's amazing. But another guy came up to me and was headed to the printer, and then he stopped. He was like, what made you cut your hair? For the first time, voice shaking, I told my story. And whatever was on that printer was no longer important to Scott anymore. He sat in the cube. Good night. That was so long ago, I'm about to cry. He sat in that cube and listened to my story. And to this day, there's nothing that I would not do for Scott, both Scotts, because they saw me. He saw me in that moment. He leaned in that moment, and he asked questions. A lot of the time, it's about asking the questions, just not the silly ones like, how did your hair grow, right? But like he asked the question, and I was able to share my story. And I bring that up because at that time, ONEOK took care of me. They proved to me that I could be a bald black woman in corporate America. I was able to operate in my full truth, and they got all of me. There's a statistic out there that says that when people have to cover a marginalized part of themselves, that a great deal of their energy goes to covering, and you're not getting all of your people. You are not getting all your people. And look, y'all, right now it is a war on talent. And it's not even a war on good talent. You just need some people to be there, okay? But like, imagine if you were getting 100% of all your people, it wouldn't be as bad, right? So one took care of me in that moment. You see, and this wasn't because I knew they were going to be here. I share this story often, and that's another thing. When you take care of people, they continue to be loyal to you. Your biggest recruiting mechanism is your people. So take care of your people, and they'll be sure to tell everybody about you and to come work for you. And what I will end with is keep taking care of Tulsa. Being somebody that still lives in Oklahoma, I'm looking down the turnpike, I still have family here, and really, if Oklahoma City and Tulsa can get it right, we can set a standard not just for Oklahoma, but really for our nation, and then again, the world. I appreciate y'all so much. Let's stay connected.
Shalynne, Shay, yes. Let's call her Shay. Let's give Shay a round of applause. So I will admit in full transparency that I follow Shay on social media. And I love seeing her interaction with her beautiful children and her husband. And I have just been excited to see your career just explode. So thank you for letting us in and taking us on the journey with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So now we're going to move into our panel discussion for today. Panelists, as I introduce you, please feel free to make your way to your seats. First, we have Cinthya Allen. Cinthya is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Arvest Bank. In this capacity, she is responsible for developing the strategy and execution of workforce community engagement and market influence across all bank markets and divisions. She was formerly the Chief Diversity and Equity Officer for the City of Norman, the third largest city in Oklahoma, where she developed a strategic roadmap designed for the workforce of nearly 1,000 folks, including all internal departments, police, and fire, while maintaining a focus on community engagement. In addition, she served as the city's ADA coordinator and staffed multiple city commissions. Previously, Cinthya served as adjunct professor at the University of Oklahoma in the Department of Human Relations. Next, we have Scott Schingen. Scott is Senior Vice President of Natural Gas Liquids and Natural Gas Operations for ONEOK. He's responsible for the respective operations activities, including environment, safety, health, capital projects, and supply chain capabilities that support the segments. He is currently the co-chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Council at ONEOK and was previously an executive sponsor for ONEOK's Racial and Ethnic Inclusion Business Resource Group. Finally, we have Hannah Jackson. Hannah is partner, chief operating officer, and diversity, equity, and inclusion director with Schnake Turnbo Frank. She has experience working on a wide range of industries on diverse projects, including coaching, management consulting, traditional media, strategic planning, and resource development. She is the co-chair of Tulsa's LGBT Women's Network and a member of the Mosaic Membership Committee, Tulsa's Young Professionals, Global Gardens, and the Oklahoma Sustainability Network. Prior to joining the firm, Jackson was the communications manager at the Tulsa Regional Chamber. And our moderator for today's panel will be the one and only Jonathan Long, Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Tulsa Regional Chamber. Jonathan, take it away.
I want to go bring a DJ and not have some music. I mean, I just need y'all to take the shoes. I just need y'all, y'all feel free to sway. Hey. There we go. That's what we doing here. There we go. Thank you so much, DJ J Soleil on the ones and twos back there. How's everybody doing today? There we go. We're excited to follow up such an informative presentation with a panel discussion because, as Shalynne said, we're having to do this differently now, right? Like the things that we have done in the past are in this current moment maybe not the best way to make progress. DEI isn't dead, but there is a lot of noise. And when there's a lot of noise, we got to do some different things because we still have to communicate within the noise. And we've got 3 people here who are doing a great job in their respective industries and organizations with finding ways to do so. So we're going to jump right into the conversation. So I'm going to ask the group, how would you describe the state of inclusion in your current industry? And what are the key elements you're seeing that may be looked at different from traditional DEI?
All right, here we go. Thank you so much. Love the intro. I think I saw some swagging and I saw some movement, so thank you. Shout out to the Arvest team. I told them that I would shout out to them, so, thank you. Something that is different in regards to DEI, and I just want to say you're right. This is a different time for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I think as with any part of business, whether nonprofit, private, corporate, whatever it is, there's always a sense of evolution, right? So I would challenge you all to consider this time for diversity, equity, and inclusion just part of the evolution, because that allows us to be more broad and open thinking regarding what's next, also in regards to who our partners are. So I just want to throw that out there. In regards to how we activate diversity, equity, inclusion at Arvest, and what's different is that, we really believe our motto is people helping people find financial solutions for life. So whenever we say that, we have to really walk the talk in regards to it being for all people. And that's a challenge that we have for each other. So having that out there and making sure that we hold each other accountable is how we're doing that.
Great answer, and I agree with everything that you've said there. I might just add a few things from our perspective. Oil and gas industry for ONEOK, very traditionally male-dominated, white, straight male-dominated, honestly, if we're going to call a spade like Shay said. I think we're improving. We're on the journey of improving. We're definitely seeing a lot more women, even out in the field doing operational manager roles, director roles. So I think we're improving, but we still have quite a ways to go, and we're very committed to that. In terms of the way it's changing, it gets loudest because people are paying attention. Before it was ignored, now it's starting to really take hold, and so people are paying attention, and so you're going to have the nopes, they're going to speak up. I personally believe we're at a stage where it's a must-have, not a nice-to-have anymore at a company. The generations that are coming in, they want to know, what are you doing in your community? What are you doing in the DEI space? Do you have an active DEI program? So I don't see this going away at all. As a matter of fact, I think we're on the journey of it getting stronger.
I also agree with everything you both said. I'm going to keep going last so I don't have to talk as much. So ditto. And I want to talk about our industries in 3 spaces. So public relations is the primary work I do every day. And the lucky thing for us is that PR has always been about relationships with our publics, which means your audience, which means every audience, and thinking about what do diverse audiences want. And that includes everything, right? That's race, gender, things that we can't see when we're looking at somebody. And so I would say in the PR industry, it is definitely not dying. The things that might change, which Shalynne mentioned earlier, are how we're talking about it. So it might be about culture and belonging instead of using the words DE and I if that stops the conversation. But for the most part, public relations is definitely really focused on what are the outcomes, what are the things that we're doing, and making sure that we are able to connect with audiences no matter who they are, no matter where they are, no matter what their preferences are. And then on the leadership development side, what we're seeing is who gets the access to those professional development opportunities? Who's getting access to executive coaching? What do the executive coaches look like? And then nonprofit development, I still think it's living on in nonprofit. I mean, people are still concerned with making sure the boards are diverse, just like the people that they're serving. And so I do think that there are, actually Shalynne's graph earlier with the nopes, I do think that there are some nopes who don't agree with Scott and think it's a nice to have and they're maybe backing away. But those movable middles, they're still in there and they're still trying to make sure that they are connecting with, engaging with, and including people who are diverse in all of those areas.
Thank you. And to disrupt Hannah's strategy, Hannah, this question is for you.
Never show your cards.
You work with a lot of our community's most trusted organizations. Public relations often involves shaping public perception. So how does your firm help companies make sure their efforts are authentic and not performative?
I feel very lucky that I ended up at Schnake Turnbo Frank specifically, because Steve Turnbo and Chuck Schnake have founded this company on doing good deeds first and then talking about it. And I think that's the key, especially in D&I work. And so I think I could talk for hours. I'll take anyone to lunch and talk to you about anything in particular you want to work on. But I think the two tips that I would give really briefly would be, if you're about to announce something or say something or post a Pride post or a Juneteenth post, think about your employees and whether they believe that that is a genuine, authentic representation of where your organization is. And so if you're posting about Pride, what are your same-sex benefits? What kind of healthcare coverage do you have for employees who might be transitioning? What access do your gender nonconforming employees have to self-identify either within their systems or in their meetings about what their gender is? And think about the safety employees feel before you just start posting it on TikTok. So the first thing is, before you say it, will the people closest to you believe it? If not, dig in and do the work first. And the second thing is, include people in the conversations. In PR, we talk about how do we communicate with people who are different? I get asked silly questions, silly, that's not very nice of me. I get asked questions all the time about, like, should we say queer or LGBT? Should we say Hispanic or Latinx? Should we say this, should we say that? My answer is always, if you are talking about a group of people in your organization, go ask them. Some people prefer Hispanic, some people prefer Latinx. Some people prefer something more specific. I'm good with queer. You can call me queer, you can call me gay, you can call me a lesbian. Like, I'm good with it. But everyone has different life experiences. And so instead of asking me, work with the people who know better. If you're gonna celebrate Juneteenth this year, include people who have celebrated Juneteenth their whole lives. Include them in the process. So I would say, before you say something, ask yourself, would your employees believe you? And before you celebrate something, engage the people who already are celebrating that thing and make sure they're helping you in the decision.
Thank you for that, Hannah. As we're talking about including people, Scott, you talked about this being imperative, like we must have this, right? And we hear that a lot at the top of the organization. We're starting to see CEOs say some of the things that we've been waiting for them to say, that our organization values this, we want this. How do you ensure that inclusion initiatives are not only top down, but are embedded at every level of the organization?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. And I wouldn't say that we've succeeded necessarily in it, but I think we've got some strategies that we've been trying to apply. The first thing is you have to have that top commitment. If the top commitment's not there, then no matter how much groundswell you have, it's not going to take off. So top commitment first, and one of the best ways to see that top commitment is in the benefits. We're very, very intentional about making sure our benefits are inclusive, and we're trying to ask the questions that we need to. If we're not from those identities, trying to understand what those identities value in the benefits. So I think that's embedding it truly in your systems and your policies and programs. After that, I think it's really empowering the influencers. There are people that are just naturally going to go lead and champion things, and others are going to follow them. And so for us, we use a D&I council. We purposely pick people that are leaders and influencers that really, truly believe in what we're trying to do here. And then they go out and they carry it forward. And maybe another item I might just mention came out of one of our D&I councils that I think was really powerful. So we have some values, I think most companies do. One of our core values is diversity and inclusion, and we do mean it. We try to live it to the best we can. We all make mistakes, but hopefully are willing to learn. Another one is safety. And if you're going to have a good safety program, you have to have a speak-up culture. people aren't going to speak up if they don't feel like they belong or they're included or it's safe. Now the D&I Council recently said, we don't need to just talk about safety, we need to start talking about psychological safety too. It's just as important to our physical safety, having the psychological safety to be able to stand up, say, let's stop work, I don't think this is right, or can we rethink this, those types of things. I think it's a combination of those, and lastly I would just add our BRGs, business resource groups, have been awesome at really helping inform and educate our employee base, but also just carry that optimism forward for our programs.
Thank you, Scott. You touched a little bit about doing some things differently, right? Cinthya, financial institutions aren't necessarily the first that come to mind when we're thinking about progressive social change. How have you navigated these challenges to implement innovative inclusion efforts?
You're right. That's not what usually comes to mind, right? But think about what is essential for anyone, no matter who you are, to thrive. You need a solid financial plan, stability. You need a plan. You need a roadmap. And that's something that we've committed to at Arvest, is to really put that motto that I just shared with you to life through activating our solutions intentionally by connecting with underbanked communities. Most recently, last year, what year are we in? Yeah, so this is flying, but most recently we launched the Arvest Opportunity Fund, and in short time, May 2022, so there you go, it wasn't last year, we have really been able to help communities with so far $13.3 million of loans that have helped, thank you, absolutely, that have helped people realize their dreams of small business. And there's other aspects of what we do, right? So when you think about home ownership and how critical that is, and think about that single thing of home ownership and how that impacts health index standards, how that impacts education access, how that impacts generational change and impact. So, when I came to Arvest, one of the things that really compelled me to come is that I knew that by serving in this industry, the financial industry, we would be able to make a difference in those things. And so far, things like that $13.3 million is one of the elements. Another thing, you're right. So when we think about that financial impact is how we connect even with our associates and making sure that they feel prepared and equipped. So they're going through classes to make sure that they have a plan themselves. So it's just fabulous, and it's all about really reframing and looking at what services, what do we have access to, and how can we put that out there to change the narrative and the actuality of what we do.
Thank you for that. That's outstanding work. One of the things that I find myself saying a lot is, if we sweep our own steps, the neighborhood will be clean. And I think what you're just talking about is you found a solution in a way that's applicable to what you all do every day. So I would love for you all to talk about, as your organizations continue upon this journey, how do you figure out what success looks like, and what are the metrics that you use to determine if you are where you are on that journey?
I can go first this time, I guess, my turn. I think there's a lot of metrics you can have, and obviously a popular one is the Gallup survey, and just seeing, do we have engagement? Engagement is a pretty good indicator of how inclusive your culture is. There is an addition to Gallup that's provided around D&I that can tell you how, basically, are you inclusive? It's an inclusive index, and so we do that as well. But ultimately, I think some of the metrics that really matter, number one, are we making good financial performance? Are we winning, right? And if we're not winning, it's probably because our teams aren't working at full power and full speed. And so obviously financial is one of the things. But then beyond Gallup, my safety numbers for me in operations, again, if I have good, inclusive, belonging culture, my safety numbers should show that. And so that's super important to me. How's our allyship looking? Are we getting beyond the people that are cheering for us to the middles, right? And I think if we could see that that's improving, that's a good metric as well. And then ultimately, finally, I'd just say, are we attracting people? Are we retaining people? Do we feel like we're getting their discretionary effort?
Thank you. Success, that's such a, like, how do you define that? Everything's so unique, right? But I'll tell you from our perspective in diversity, equity, and inclusion, we focus on 3 pillars, and that's associates, community, and business. And all of these, are so important to what we do, and sometimes initiatives that we take on impact all 3 or maybe some of these. But success is knowing that our associates feel comfortable. That psychological safety that you mentioned, Scott, is critical. And for that, we have our associate impact groups, which you all may call employee resource groups or business resource groups. This year alone, we have increased our membership in business resource in our AIGs, and excuse me. And that has allowed us to really have more open conversations and ensuring that our associates feel a part of the environment no matter where they are, whether they're at a branch or whether they're, behind the scenes on a shared service location, they have an opportunity and an outlet. From a community standpoint, as I mentioned, the Arvest Opportunity Fund, or really taking our business into communities such as in Kansas City, East Kansas City, where we are the only bank in that area, and that's something that we're committed to and proud of. And then ultimately, business is just really making sure that we are serving customers, that we are meeting their needs, whether that's through in-language opportunities and making sure that that's available. As you can see, hablo español on my tag. Things like that just open the door to be able to serve you and understand you and be there for you. So success is you never reach that destination. You're always working towards it. And it really has to be one that we touch all areas for everyone.
Ditto and ditto. I think for us, we've talked about this, it's about the outcome. So I'll talk about Schnake specifically. For me, we have built processes and systems so that every employee, no matter age, stage, race, gender, sexual orientation, everyone has the same opportunity for professional development, for their career path. They know what opportunities are open to them. We want to make sure we have psychological safety so that people can speak up if there's an issue. There have been times where things have come up that have just floored me that I didn't realize were a challenge. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, actually someone can probably correct me, but the Mayor Bynum did a pay equity pledge for the city of Tulsa. Well, we have offices in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and Becky Frank said, hey, we're already doing these 3 things, or maybe it was the women's equity pledge. We're already doing these 3 things. It was like equitable pay bands, promoting your pay bands on your job descriptions, and that was the 3rd thing. And we were doing all of them, and so she was like, should we sign up and be one of the first signers for this? And we're like, of course, we're already doing the thing, let's do it. So very proudly in staff meeting, we say we're so proud to be one of the first for Mayor Bynum's Women's Equity Pledge. And then a month goes by, and I get a call from an employee in Oklahoma City who says, when are we gonna get pay equity in Oklahoma City? And I'm like, whoa, I am so glad you felt safe enough to ask that question, because it has existed since before, and I've been at the company 10 years, pay bands and all of those things were in place way before I got there. And so it gave us the opportunity to not just correct for one person, but also in staff meeting and in an email to go through and say, hey, thank you for bringing this up. Because if we don't have that safety to know that someone might be thinking that, then we won't have the opportunity to correct it. So we need to hear that. So I would say the surveys, knowing what where your shortcomings are, knowing where misinformation is, and then really it's the employee outcomes for us as a company and making sure we have equitable opportunity for them.
Thank you. Scott, you had brought up that if you're creating this inclusive culture, you should see it, right? You should see it in your daily operations. You should see it in all the things that you're doing. Can you talk about how your DEI strategies and efforts are playing a part in your day-to-day operations?
DJ Lyles or DJL?
Sure. Maybe a little redundant here, but it's so important to me, the safety aspects of it. And the truth is we work in a risky business. You know, our products that we're handling can catch fire, can explode. There's a lot of pressure, there's temperatures, so that there are risks that we are constantly managing. The good news is we manage those very, very well, you know, every day. But because of that risk, we need people to speak up when they see something that may not be right, or if they're even just a little bit nervous. Like, it's not just if you see something completely wrong, it's if you're unsure and uncertain, we want you to speak up. That can be really hard, especially for newer employees when you're working next to someone that's been a tenured employee for a long time, to still speak up and say, wait a minute, have we thought about this or that? So to me, the safety is ultimately probably one of the best barometers we have of, do we have that culture? The discretionary effort that I mentioned, you can tell when people are giving the bare minimum, and you can tell when people are really bought in. Like Shay said, I'm gonna go back to her, like she was all in after that first day when she was recognized and seen for who she truly was. And I don't know what you did. But I think that you see that, it's contagious as well. And so if your culture is, you know, humming along in the right way because of this, I think everyone in the organization feels it. We also feel when it's not safe. That is a very apparent feeling too, when it's keep my head down, I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to avoid eye contact with you. You know, that's a bad feeling too. So we don't always have to have data with numbers. I think we intuitively know a lot of times where we stand.
Thank you for that. Hannah, how are you all working with leaders to help train and support staff to effectively communicate and advocate for that type of inclusive space?
I'm going to say psychological safety in every answer. I think I'll dig in a little bit to the training piece that you mentioned, because Scott and Cinthya have touched on it, but it's like, if people don't feel safe, they're not going to speak up. So to me, the very bare minimum is that you have to be able to create a culture where people feel comfortable saying, hey, do we have pay equity in Oklahoma City? Hey, this thing happened and I didn't have an opportunity to do that. Hey, did I miss something here? And so you have to create that culture. And so what I want to add to that is, most of you in here have been professionally educated in something, right? You're an accountant, you're an architect, you're an engineer, you're a doctor. When it comes to leading teams, inclusive leadership or strong communication, we just assume that everyone can do it. Now, just because a kid can swing a hammer does not mean they're going to be able to build a house. And just because you can talk does not mean that you're a good communicator. And just because you were assigned direct reports does not make you a leader. And so I would say, to create those inclusive cultures, you have got to provide that development and training for what does that mean? I talk to people all the time that want to be good, inclusive leaders, and they have no idea where to start. And Shalynne said earlier, there's several things that seem so basic, but if you are overthinking it and you don't know, how are you supposed to figure it out? So providing training that teaches, how do you listen? How do you communicate? How do you circle back? What do you look for? How do you build mutual trust and relationships so that you can have that environment where someone can speak up? There are studies in hospitals where in surgery, when nurses are comfortable speaking up when something is wrong and the surgeon is not the one that's dictating how everything goes, the outcomes are better because mistakes are caught, because they're safe to speak up. And so I would say it really is starting with that leading and training, and not assuming that because someone can speak or that they have direct reports that they're going to be able to be an inclusive leader.
Jonathan, I've got to add something here, because we've talked a lot about psychological safety, and it's critical. We were talking about how, we want people to speak up, and, we often hear that, see something, say something, and those type of things. But I also want to open up the lens and consider the psychological safety for those that may want to learn and may want to know more and may want to connect with someone different than them. So sometimes psychological safety is not just about sharing, the see something, say something scenario, which are critical, but it's also important so you can get those folks on board to learn and to lean into creating that inclusive space that you're looking for.
Thank you, and that leads me right into my last question. what strategies have you all found most effective in fostering inclusive cultures that go deeper than representation, that go deeper than just, at the surface level, here's who I am, but really allows an individual to show up authentically to the organization?
I'll share an example of something we've done recently. Through our associate impact groups, Hola Arvest is our Latino-focused associate impact group. They recently came up with an initiative to support their fellow associates who are covered under DACA, Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals Plan. And for that, you need to renew, I don't know if it's annual or every couple of years, but it's a $500 commitment to renew that and send in your application. So our associates came together, not just Hola Arvest, but our entire Arvest community, to do a fundraiser and provide scholarships for our associates who have to renew. Now, that is just amazing. And you think of the people that now are feeling supported, that they feel that whether or not their associates are impacted directly, they're supporting them. They're hearing their story. They're seeing their value. They know they want them to stay here and be a part of this organization. So that in itself went way further than just the representation. It went into understanding their journey. Now, whenever you get to that level of really understanding someone for, the journey that they're taking in their shoes, then I think that's when you really can start to build empathy, which really starts to build on the inclusion journey that we all seek. So that's something I'm happy to share with you all.
Yeah, I might take a little bit of what both of these women have said. Our allyship model, I think, has really been a game changer for us. We're really inviting allies into the conversation, and in some ways it's the training aspect that you mentioned. It's starting to have those conversations that are difficult and getting corrected in a safe way, and then feeling more confident over time that they can really lean into this. And so it's not just a small portion of the organization, it becomes a very large portion of the organization. The people that are not bought in become the outliers instead of the people that are trying to push the narrative. And so for me, that the allyship is a big piece. I'm going to go just a little bit off and make this a personal example as well. As leaders, it can be really easy to just have people tell you what you want to hear. And it's hard to get out of that filter. I will tell you, operations has not had a lot of women in it, like I've said in the past in the oil and gas industry. I had a single woman on my team as direct report about last year or so. And she had the courage to come to me and say, when you're leading in this way in our staff meetings, this is off-putting to me as a woman, and this is why. And it's probably happening throughout the organization for the same reasons. Again, I was just ignorant. It wasn't an intentional thing. One, I was very appreciative she came to me. Two, I made sure I told all the other leaders that are in operations, these are things we should be watching out for. And so I think, one, being open to it, asking for feedback, and then responding to it, and not just nodding your head, but actually taking action matters. And so as a leader, I challenge you to have that openness. That person went on. I now have another woman on my team, direct report. And one of the very first things I said to her is, please, I know I have this area to work on. Please feel safe, and I encourage you to share with me things that I could personally work on here. And so far, it's been a good relationship there as well. So I think it goes beyond just the dynamics of the entire organization. It really comes down to relationships, and relationships are one-on-one. We don't form relationships in groups, and so setting that example.
So this is going deeper than representation and focusing on inclusion. I first want to say representation matters. And so it's important who's at the head table, right? It's important who we see on panels. And it's important who is leading organizations. But to go deeper than representation and think about inclusion, I think it's relationships. And Shalynne told a beautiful story. I'll tell you, I was at Schnake for a month and a half. I had like a client holiday party. I went to alone because I didn't realize I had to take my partner. I didn't. Becky calls me into her office on Monday, and she said, hey, I just found out you didn't take your partner to the event on Friday. Have they ever, have they been homophobic to you? Like, is there, and she, of her own accord, I said, oh, no, I didn't know she had to go. And Becky said, no, she doesn't have to go. I just need you to know that she is welcome. And if there are any issues, I've got your back. And that's what creates psychological safety, right? When you feel safe to ask those questions, when you feel safe to say, hey, this person makes me feel uncomfortable because perhaps they're not loving and let love, as we talked about earlier, then you're creating a space where people don't have to cover or hide or pretend they're not any of the other things. So that's one thing I will say. And then the last thing on the inclusion side is, what kind of processes do you have in place to make sure people are represented? Because let's use the chamber events as an example. If your head table is always this level of manager or this level of executive, and then you think, oh, all my pool is straight white men, then create a plan for what does that look like in the future. Create a plan for how that representation can be modified, not on the surface level of who's just getting to sit up at the head table, but also because you've got a process in place that says, this is who gets to sit at this table, and here's the 5-year plan we're going to have to ensure that diverse people have the opportunity to get to this role, to be selected for this position. And similarly, and this is the last thing that I will say, we hang our hat a lot on these special months, right? Pride Month is coming up, Black History Month, and my friend Hannibal Johnson will always say, I'm happy to get rid of Black History Month as soon as history is like guaranteed to always include Black history. And so what I would encourage all of you is whenever you're celebrating those months, don't shy away from it. There's a reason we have those months. We have those months because we're not focusing on these differences enough. But instead of just thinking about February, or instead of just thinking about June, make your plan for the whole year. Highlight a Black engineer on International Engineers Day, right? Highlight a trans woman on International Women's Engineering Day. And so instead of just thinking about February, think about what is my Black history, Black representation plan for the next 12 months, instead of just what am I going to post on Facebook.
Thank you all. Such great answers. Please give her another round of applause for our panelists. Thank you all. Rose, take it away.
Hannah, Cinthya, Scott, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, and thank you, Jonathan, for moderating such a great discussion. To all of you, thanks again for joining us at the Tulsa Regional Chamber's State of Inclusion. Before we adjourn, please take note of some of the Chamber's upcoming events. There was a card at your seat that looks something like this. It is a reminder to you to nominate your favorite local small business for the Chamber's 2024 Tulsa Small Business Awards. The Chamber's Small Business Awards honors the region's small business leaders for their work not only in their business, but for the region's business community. Nominations close on Monday, June 3rd, and the Tulsa Small Business Awards will be held on September 19th. The State of Workforce and Talent will be next month on July 25th. This event examines trends, innovations, and opportunities in the workforce and talent ecosystem. Bill Fornett, founder and CEO of the locally based consulting firm, the Persimmon Group, will keynote the event and discuss the multi-generational workforce, as well as moderate a panel on the same subject. Mosaic, the Chamber's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coalition, will hold its June monthly meeting 1 week later than normal on Wednesday, June 26th. Mosaic meetings are free to attend and offer a space for businesses to learn and discuss different ways their organization can improve its DE&I practices. The Chamber's final Congressional Forum of the year will take place on August 8th and will feature U.S. Representative Kevin Hern. Congressional forums provide opportunities for the Northeast Oklahoma business community and each of you to hear directly from members of the state's federal delegation. Representative Hern will also participate in a Q&A session and will share an overview of national events and his work. Finally, early bird tickets go on sale next Monday, June 3rd for the Chamber's 2024 inner-city visit trip to Detroit, Michigan, taking place October 7th through the 9th. Inner-city visits are a chance to join fellow elected officials, business leaders, education administrators, young professionals, and regional partners to identify opportunities to further enhance the Tulsa region's economic prosperity and quality of life. While in Detroit, you'll explore opportunities in economic development, tourism, workforce, talent development, housing, community building, arts, and culture. You can register for all of the Chamber's upcoming events at tulsachamber.com/events. Finally, thank you again to our wonderful, fabulous keynote speaker, Shalynne Jackson, and yes. Thank you to our panelists and to the generous sponsors who made today's event possible. Please take note of the businesses listed on your program and call on them whenever possible. Please stay safe and have a great rest of your day.